Good morning. Today's Rambam is in Perik Shvi from Hilchos Kiddish Hachidesh, mentions something that, of course, is relevant in a week. Rambam begins by saying, "Ein koivim la'olam Rosh Chodesh Tishrei lifi cheshbon zeh." According to the cheshbon that we've mentioned in the past few prakim, that we add the cheshbon of Ib Tashzag to the Moiled of Elul, and that's the way we find what will be the Rosh Chodesh of Tishrei. So ein koivim la'olam Rosh Chodesh Tishrei lifi cheshbon zeh. We don't use this cheshbon loy be'echad b'Shabbos, not on the first, not on Sunday, v'loy b'Revi b'Shabbos, and not on Wednesday, v'loy be'erev Shabbos, and not on Friday. The siman lahem adu, and the siman for this halacha not to use the cheshbon is adu, loy adu rosh, like we know, ella, etc. If the Moiled of Tishrei will be on one, it will fall out on one of these days. What we do is we make Rosh Chodesh, which is Rosh Hashanah, b'yom shel ha'achrav, on the second day. Today I'll just give a little bit of an overview, not completely directly connected to the Rambam, but perhaps something that would illuminate a little bit the understanding of the Shittas Rambam in this, and perhaps will be a little bit enjoyable to those that are learning the Shir, to give a little bit of a color, to give a little bit of a background. So we have a big kasha. And the kasha is the Rambam himself learns in two places. The Rambam himself learns in two places that there were situations that we did have that Rosh Hashanah fell out on Friday. Famous halachas. Excuse me 1 second. The famous halachas of the Tamid, for example. I need to find something. Excuse me. So, for example, the two in Hilchos Tmidim U'Musafim, Perek Aleph Halacha Zayin, the Rambam talks about the Tmidim of Shabbos and Erev Yom Kippur. What's the halacha over there? And also, there's in Hilchos Shabbos, the Rambam in Perek Hey Halacha Chaf Aleph talks about the din of Tkiyas in the Beis Hamikdash on Erev Yom Kippur Shechol is b'Shabbos. So, in other words, the Shabbos in these two cases side the union of the Tmidi Shabbos, and side the union of the Tkiyas in the Mikdash was when Yom Kippur, when Shabbos was Erev Yom Kippur. The only way that Shabbos can fall out on Erev Yom Kippur is if Rosh Hashanah was the previous Friday. Make the cheshbon occur, it works out. That l'chayda is a strong shaila to this whole klal of lo yadu rosh. So this goes back to a fundamental issue that we will discuss in a very short few moments. A fundamental machlokes haga'onim. What exactly was the method of establishing Rosh Chodesh, establishing the Chodesh Bizman Habayis? Obviously, the Rambams that we're learning today, lately, the last few days and the next few days, are Shaloi Bifnei Habayis. Well, we don't have anymore the Sanhedrin, we don't have the Kiddish Hachidesh, etc., etc. So therefore, we use the method of cheshbon that was created by Hillel. Also, our luach was created by Hillel, not the Hillel that we're familiar with, Hillel the Amayra, the second generation Amayra, who created a luach. But the question becomes: there's a fundamental machlokes haga'onim in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. What was the Iker method that was used to establish Rosh Chodesh? So in this we have a machlokes between Reb Sadia Gaon and Reb Hai Gaon. Reb Sadia Gaon held that the Iker knowledge, so to speak, or the ikr cheshbon that what was used in order to create the Rosh Chodesh was according to cheshbon. Elamai, we also use the edus. Rav Haigon strongly argued on Rav Sadigan, and he claimed that there's a machlekes on what Rav Haigon understood that Rav Sadigan said. That one claim is that there was then a big problem with the Karoyim, with Tzaddik and Baisus, and Rav Sadigan had to use certain methods to prove to them that our way of our luach is correct. So he proved to them the inyan of cheshbon. He proved to them the inyan of how we are correct in our luach, also according to cheshbon. Another opinion is no, he taka held like that. In any case, Rav Haigon, and this is of course how the Rambam learns. If you look at the first few prakim of Kiddish Hachidesh, it's obvious that the Rambam learns that even in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, in the time of the Mishnah, even the ikar way that we used to evaluate to start the Chodesh was with the Riyah, not with Cheshbon. And if Haigon holds that is the method that is the optimum method. And according to Rav Haigon, there's a difference between how you make the ibur. In other words, he claims that Rav Sadigan, quote unquote, made a mistake between differentiating how you're ma'aber the Chodesh and how you're makadesh the Chodesh. Kiddish Hachidesh is the ikar on Riyah. Kiddish Hachidesh is how the witnesses saw the moon. And of course, in that case, there's no other cheshbainis, there's no other calculation that you're able to use. And therefore, according to Rav Haigon, of course, we're familiar that even if Bezdin made a mistake, even if Bezdin Toyin, so there's no problem, because the ikar, that's Ratzon Hashem, that we should establish the Chodesh based on Riyah. And of course, we're all familiar with the various Mishnayos in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, and these Mishnayos seem to indicate clearly the Shitta of Rav Haigon, how the main thrust of creating the Chodesh was through Edom. For example, how you got the Edom, how you checked the Edom, how they came on Shabbos, etc., etc. All the famous Mishnayos over there, how they were machras after the Edom came, etc. And if you look at the Mishnayos, you won't see any option that there was a way to be Mekadesh al pi cheshbon. Of course, these Mishnayos are, of course, a big kasha to the Sadigan, because they only talk about the Kiddish Hachidesh according to the Iyah. And we have the famous Mishnah how Rabbi Gamliel had various tziyurim, and he would use it to either evaluate or test the witnesses. So this is clearly because just in order to know when we should expect the Edom to see and how the Edom should see, but not that the cheshbon was used to be mekadesh the Chodesh. Now, this machlokes, this fundamental machlokes between Reb Sadigan and Reb Haigon, has many halachic implications. We'll mention just one or two of them. And this is connected slightly to our Pedic that we're learning today. According to Rav Haigon, and of course the Rambam seems to agree with this cheshbon, of course. According to Rav Haigon, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash that we were mekadesh the Chodesh al pi hariyah, the Yomim Tovim were technically able to fall out any day of the week. On the and so therefore the klal of loy adu rosh did not apply in the Zman HaBayis, because whenever the Edom saw the moon, even if it was on in any way, they were able to come. According to the Psadigon, loy adu rosh was valid even in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore, even at the time of Beis Hamikdash, there were times that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur never fell out, and like we said before, the Rambam brings down. This answers the question that we asked, that we we began with the beginning of this year. Therefore, there are situations that Erev Yom Kippur is Shabbos, which could only happen if Rosh Hashanah was Friday, and therefore the Rambam talks about in Hilchos Tefillin Musafim about the cheshbonus of the carbon tamid on Erev Yom Kippur, and on the Tkiyas in the Beis Hamikdash on Erev Yom Kippur and Hilchos Shabbos. So however, there are Mefarshim that explain that even according to Rav Haigon, there were situations where according to the Riyah, the klal of loy adu rosh did not apply, and it could have been. Nevertheless, they tried very hard. The Chachamim, the Sanhedrin, in those days, tried very hard to, according to some Mefarshim, to not have Rosh Hashanah fall out on Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They tried to ask him various questions that they knew they couldn't answer. Anything to do, but technically, and the klal of Leah Durash did not apply. And just want to mention something very okay. Before we get to that, the same thing is there's another halachic implication. There's a famous historical fact, a very famous machlokes between the Maribe Rav, who was a chacham in Tzfas. We know he was the Rebbe of the Beis Yosef, of the Mechaber, Yosef Karo, and he was Mechadesh Smicha. He wanted to be Mechadesh Smicha. And there was another very great Rishon, his name was the Maharal Bach, who was from Yerushalayim, who opposed the initiative of the Maribe Rav. And one of the Iker Tainus of the Maharal Bach on the Maribe Rav was this issue of whether the fact that if we are Mechadesh the Smicha, so then what's going to end up happening is we're going to have to be Mechadesh the Chodesh al pi hariyah. And he claims that that's something that's technically not possible, etc., etc. And he's Meidich in this Inyan. So it's an interesting nekuda of again the halachic implication between that is connected to the Ga'inim, the Machlekes HaGa'inim. If today if even in the time of the Sanhedrin, the Iker was Cheshbon, which then would indicate, like the Maribe Rav, that we can continue going with our calendar, or the Iker was Riyah, which would be the time of the Maharal Bach, that we would have to start again. I just want to conclude with an interesting issue that can answer questions that many people have bothered. I know it bothered me for many years. And the question is, as a famous Gemara, everybody knows the Gemara, how Hillel became the Nasi, the great Hillel Azaken. And the fact was, at one time, the Bnei Beseda was a Gabi Erev Pesach, Shechol B'Shabbos, Gemara M'sachim Daf Samach Vav, and they didn't know what to do. So the question becomes, what do you mean they didn't know what to do? If the Cheshbon is according to the Psadi Gon, the Iker Cheshbon in those days, even in those days, Banabayis, was according to Cheshbon, and Re'iyah was just a technicality. So what do you mean they don't know? Every 19 years there's a possibility of it happening. So what do you mean? Even like today, we have Erev Pesach, Shol B'Shabbos comes across. Not often, but not so rare that Rabbanim don't remember. So according to the Psadigon, that the Iker Cheshbon was, the Iker way they were Mekadesh the Chodesh was according to Cheshbon, was according to the calculation. Why did the Bnei Beseda, why were they totally ignorant of what happened on a case of Erev Pesach, Shechol B'Shabbos? But according to Rav Haigon, it's very understood, because according to Rav Haigon, it's something that the Kiddish, like we said before, like we tried to explain before, the Kiddish was nikva al pi hariyah, but they Bezdin were able to manipulate, so to speak, the cheshbonus that it shouldn't happen, because they tried very hard for various reasons that taka lo yadu rosh, things be l'kabed Shabbos, to prepare not to have to fast 2 days or not to have fresh food for 2 days, etc. So Bezdin tried very hard not to establish Rosh Hashanah on those days in order to for various reasons. So therefore, it's possible that historically, for many years, decades, there was a case that practically there was no Kiddish Hachidesh on Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. 1 year they had no choice. It was a clear moon, I guess, and the witnesses came, and there was nothing to do. So in that case, that unique case, Taka B'nai B'Seder didn't know what to do because they were never presented with such an opportunity. This was just an introduction, perhaps a little bit of a illumination on something connected to today's Rambam, and hopefully it's something that will bring a benefit. Thank you.